Hey guys, Cody B here with another message from God's Word. We're going to continue our study of the book of James. We'll be in James chapter 1, verses 12 through 15. James 1, verses 12 through 15. James tells us in God's Word, "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial. For when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then, desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death." In this passage of James, we have two polar opposites, as it were. One is the story of how we receive the crown of life, and one is the story of how someone ends up in eternal punishment. The crown of life is given to those, as James says here, to those who love the Lord, to those who stand up, who remain steadfast under trial, the one who stand the test that they are given. It says in the very last part of verse 12, which God has promised to those who love him. That promise is mentioned in John, as we talked about a little bit yesterday, I believe, where Jesus says in the book of John, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. If you love me, you will obey my commandments. He's saying that those who obey, those who give their life to Jesus, those who make Jesus Christ the Lord of their life, and they stand up to those trials, they'll receive the crown. They'll get the reward. And the polar opposite comes at the end of the verse. He says, I'm going to read again in verse 14, "But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. And that desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's fully grown, brings forth death." The one who doesn't stand steadfast under trial, the one who gives in to their own desires, they sin. And sin, when it's fully formed, brings forth death. It gives us the path to heaven and the path to eternal punishment. In this clip, in this small section of James, he lays out the two choices that we have. The choice to remain steadfast, to overcome, and to keep our eyes on the crown and the walk of Jesus and the road that is Jesus Christ, as we talked about yesterday. The narrow path that goes to the narrow gate, or the other path, which is broad and wide, that most people go down, the path of damnation and the path of punishment. Which path are you on? Are you choosing to be steadfast and stand up to temptation and sin and trials? Or are you the one who gives in? What choice will you make today? What choices have you been making? What choices will you make tomorrow? There is no third street. There is no third option. I pray and I hope you choose the way of life. You choose the way of steadfastness. You choose the way that stands up against trials. May God bless you. You have a wonderful day.